Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ukulele on Ground podcast. My name is Aldrin Guerrero. Joining me are Mr. Aaron, the voice, Nakamura. Say what's up, Aaron.
What's up?
And Mr. Kalei, the legend Fergan. Say what's up, Kalei.
What's up?
Gentlemen, this is the three of us. Sometimes it's nice like this, where it's just us. We're just talking about stuff like Nicktoons and whatever. Sometimes ukulele every now and then, But this is nice. We've had a guest. We had a guest last week. We had a guest the week before that. So it's been a few weeks since we just kind of sat down and just talk stories, what we call it here.
Guys.
Yeah, we're just three guys having a good time. So what we do here on this podcast is we answer any and all of your questions. We get them however you guys can give them to us via email. We have email. We have messages on Ukulele Underground, through the UU Plus forum, through our very special hotline you guys can call. We have a hotline, right? Yeah. It's very hot. That hotline is very hot. And you guys can leave voicemail messages there. If you guys want to be featured on the podcast, you guys can leave us a voicemail, and maybe we'll play the voicemail or something if it's if it's a question that we want to answer here on the podcast. Basically, we got A's for your Q's, right? Mm-hmm. Can we say that? We got all the A's for all their Q's.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe not all.
Yeah, well, the usual discretion is advised. We're like, hey, we're just three guys. We don't claim to kind of know everything or whatever. We're just gonna tell you what we think. How about that? This is the UU Opinions podcast.
Yeah.
But we do give out advice. We've been playing ukulele for a long time. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, I've been playing professionally for decades now, and I'd like to kind of help you guys out with your ukulele journey based on what I've experienced in my ukulele journey. And these guys are just as good. So we're gonna come up with the best A to your Q. So here we go.
O to your Q.
Oh yeah, we got the O's to your Q's. All right, Kai, give me the first Q, baby.
JT said, how would you recommend to tune a baritone ukulele?
How would I recommend to tune a baritone ukulele? I would recommend to tune a baritone ukulele, which is DGBE. That is the standard tuning for a baritone ukulele. That's with the size and with the strings that you buy, normally for that particular ukulele, it just points to that kind of tuning as far as the tension goes for the strings and what the ukulele can handle and all that stuff. DGBE. I like to mix it up a little bit with a high D. High D, GBE. It's nice. I've actually kind of experimented with that a little bit. You can tune it with the low D. That's kind of how they usually do it. But the baritone is basically just the bottom four strings of a guitar. That's really what it is. You just take out the
treble strings.
Oh, the treble string. Yeah, treble strings. So DGBE, because a guitar strings, all six of them are EADGBE. A baritone ukulele is the DGBE part. So you just take out the E and A for the bass, the bass strings. You got yourself baritone ukulele. So same kind of thing. There are there are a bunch of different string sets, but for the most part, if you're asking me how I like to tune my baritone ukulele, DGBE, high G. High D, I should say, high D. Yes.
There's a baritone over there too, right?
This one is not a high G, but it is a baritone, and this is DGBE. I was kind of praying that it was in tune because I didn't think I was going to use this. Okay. So this is a... Close enough. This is DGBE right here. So if you're a guitarist, this is one of those ukuleles that's actually that will work because you're familiar with the with the tuning or familiar with the sound of the open strings. These are the bottom four strings of a regular guitar. So if you were to play, say you're a guitar player, you're to play like a G chord and you have like the top two strings here missing, all you got to do is just play that E string third fret there. And that's a G, just like how you would play it on the guitar, except with the top, without the top two. So nice and simple. Here, just like a C, you know, but then without the top, without this A string here. So this is a C, this is a G, this is a D. So if you play guitar before, it's kind of a good jumping off point to kind of expose yourself to ukulele. But the thing is, even if you pick up a tenor ukulele or a concert or a soprano, these shapes are the same. So a lot of people say that, yeah, I should get a baritone or get a GL6 or a whatever, you know, if you're a guitar player, and then because it'll be kind of like the guitar. But then again, you know, that's just play guitar, I guess, at that point. You know, like if you want to learn uke, go learn ukulele. But as far as shapes goes, baritone wise and tenor, they're kind of the same shapes, different chords and tones and stuff, but shape wise you could pretty much play any ukulele with whatever ukulele knowledge you have.
I feel like this kind of ties into it too. Joel said, is a 5-string ukulele better sounding than a 4-string ukulele? And like I think that's why like people also like, oh, guitar lele, right? Because like 6 strings are better than 4, or
and
like
they sound bigger and more fun. And it does, you know, and it does give you a little bit more sound, but better is very subjective. Okay, like I don't want to say like this sounds better or that sounds better or this doesn't sound good or whatever.
Can you explain what a 5-string ukulele is?
Yes.
Even
5-string ukulele. So here's a 4-string ukulele. All right. So a 5-string ukulele basically just has one of these 4 strings doubled up. Okay. So you either have 2 G's, 2 C's, 2 E's, or 2 A's, depending on, you know, on what kind of ukulele or where it is on the nut or saddle of your or bridge of your ukulele. Okay. So with that said, say like a double G 5-string ukulele, it would have the high G and the low G in there. So instead of deciding if you want high G or low G, you can have both, and that's a 5-string. Okay, you can have a high C and a low C. So this would be the low C. You could have like this C right here, and so if you were to play that ukulele, it'd be that's what it would sound like. Okay, like it would sound like these 2 strings kind of play together, but with just the 1 or the 2 open strings here. So you're just doubling up whichever one you want. There's also a 6-string, which you would double up 2 of these. You know, I guess 7 I have kind of rare, but I'm sure they exist. You know, 7-string ukulele, which would just be doubling 3 of the strings, and an 8-string ukulele, super common, which is doubling up all 4 of your strings. That's really all that is. Now, do I think it sounds better? I think, like I mentioned earlier, it's subjective. Like it just depends what you're going for. Some people would say, yeah, you know, it sounds good. It sounds better because it'll fill up the sound space, you know, a lot more than 4 strings would. But if you're a technical player, maybe too much strings is a little bit too much. You know, if I'm technical and I want to play stuff like now, I'm not saying I couldn't play that on a 5-string, but it just wouldn't sound the same. Like I would want an individual G here to do. So if I had this doubled, then I would kind of get this and a low C. I guess this is a C note here in the 5th fret G string. I'll get this C and a low C. So it would just kind of sound weird. And yeah, so it just depends, you know, whatever your flavor is, like that's really all it is. There's, you know, and I think we mentioned it last podcast that there's a uke for everyone. Now there's an audience for that, is exactly what I said. There's an audience for 5 strings, 6 strings, 8 strings, whatever it is that your flavor, you know, of ukulele. Okay, so if I were to play a 5-string, I would use it mainly for strumming. I mean, I guess I could use it for picking. People like Taimane Gardner, you know, have found lots of success. I wouldn't just say a little bit, lots and lots of success playing a 5-string ukulele. She has double low G's, you know, it just, you can set it up however you want to.
Yeah. But then she does do a lot of picking, but that would make sense with the low G or like the low G, double low Gs, because she can use her E or C, E, and A for picking.
And then the low G just kind of adds in that little bass in there. Yeah, so it's very subjective. Like better is such a weird word to to use.
I'm sure there is like somebody who does this, but like I think too, if you have like a 8-string ukulele or like a 8-string instrument and each string is doubled up, like you probably don't want to bend too much, right? Because if you bend the double string, like, and like it, as time goes on, it like gets out of tune,
like intonation,
like then it's just. And like I said, I'm sure there's somebody who does do that, but it's probably just like not something that is like every single song you're bending, right? Because then every single song you're probably like, okay, guys, wait, I gotta retune my strings just to make sure that they're in tune.
Nah, but there's like some great players. Like, I mean, you're absolutely right, because it'd be kind of a nightmare to like figure out which one is off tune. You know? But like, there's some great players. I mean, people who I would suggest like 8 strings to people who have played, say, like mandolins and stuff before, who are used to like the doubled strings, and I could see people ripping it up on 8-string ukuleles, like if they have some heavy like mandolin backgrounds and stuff. Like, I think that would be really cool,
I think even and then like of course there's gonna like somebody like, oh, Chris Tilley, like he bends the strings all the time.
It can be done, but like what Kai is trying to say, it would be kind of a nightmare to keep in tune, especially if you don't know what you're doing.
And then it's just the same thing too, right? Like different things fit different instruments better too. So like will it work with that? Yeah, it will, but then it'll work better with like a single string instrument, right?
One man's medicine is another man's poison, as they say, Kai. We're just dropping knowledge here. So here's our O's for your Q's. But that's really what it is. Like, I mean, I couldn't make it sing as well as some people do, but then like I had I don't know if I've told this in the podcast before, but that there's that time that Kalei got me out, came here for our ukulele retreat, and our good friend Kaniho, who was here last week, who played bass with me and Cynthia. Kaniho is actually a big fan of Kalei, got me out, and like so I knew that he was a big fan, so I told Kalei, I'm like, let's make a pit stop. I want to introduce you to my friend Kaniho. So I brought him, like, I knocked on Kaniho's house. Good thing he was home. I go inside and I was like, I have a surprise for you. And here comes like Kalei. He just fanboyed out when Kalei was there. And Kaniho has an 8-string ukulele, and he's a big fan of Kalei and stuff. But we left our ukes in the car because I didn't expect to stay there that long, so we didn't have we didn't have an ukulele for Kalei to play. But Kaniho really wanted to hear "Kiss from a Rose" by Kalei Gamiao. So Kaniho was like, "Can you play that song? Can you just show me how? And can I like tape you like playing that song, on my phone?" And then Kalei's like, "Yeah, sure." And I was like, "Do you have an ukulele around? Or should we go back in the car and grab it?" I was about to get in the car, and then Kaniho was like, "Oh, I have this," and it was like an 8-string Kamaka ukulele. And I mean, by golly, like Kalei just ripped it up on that nice little 8-string. So like, there are people who can make these, make these ukuleles sing. I just have not had enough.
Did he
experience
adjust
with it.
his playing to
a little bit, kind of like, and that's what's cool about like watching, like professionals, especially somebody who I know very well, because I know Kalei's style, I know how he attacks, I know like all that stuff. So watching him like kind of switch up a little bit so that that he can kind of hit both strings at the same time. Like a lot of he's good with that, like that kind of what is it, that kimohasi style anyway. So because he's kind of good with that, he used more of that, because like doing this gets you a better chance of hitting the 2 strings, like, rather than like trying to do this. You can still get the 2 strings this way, but then this just kind of matches with what he was doing, because a lot of like chord melody stuff, and that's, I don't know how to play that song, but there's a lot of chord melody stuff in that. And I think like him getting the A string with the 2 A strings, the double A on the bottom, while playing the chord on top, doing that like Kimo Hussey style, was just perfect. So watching him kind of switch it up a little bit, just a little, it was super impressive. And I'm just like, I've never seen you on an 8-string, Kalei, and you just took it, and he's like, oh, now whatever. So it is true, Kai, a real artist can paint a masterpiece with any paintbrush.
Yeah. And I think it's just like, right, you just like go like, oh, okay, this is what it's good at for, so that's what I'm gonna use it. Like, I'm gonna kind of recontextualize how I normally play to just make it fit like a little bit better. or
Yeah,
something.
Yeah.
So,
It's kind of funny because I say that whole like artists with the with any paintbrush thing because sometimes like there's it was like summertime not too long ago, right? And I'm outside like my kid's playing in the yard and whatever, and she brings her ukulele out. Sometimes it's like I don't know, it's one of those like. Who gave it to me? Mim gave it to me. I forget which color. It was like a tiny soprano collar thing, and it's like super duper tiny. And
It wasn't the Ohana.
No. It was a.
It was a
was
collar,
It
pocket.
It was a collar. It was some kind of collar.
Yeah.
And so she brings it out, she plays it, but when she's done, she wants to go do something else. I'm like, oh, I don't know, I'm outside, might as well jam and stuff. And then like the neighborhood kids, because it's summertime, will like bike down and they'll hear the ukulele. They're like, what is that thing? And then, why does it sound good? I'm just like, I'm just fooling around with it. I'm like, doing like some picking. They're like, you could do that on a tiny like that tiny uke. I'm like, yeah, it's still an ukulele. I guess like technically, so you can do all the ukulele things to it. It's like that is so cool. I'm like,
because like
run along, kids.
There's a video series, right,
Yeah.
where like they challenge professional photographers to use disposable cameras or like kid toy cameras
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that's
take
cool.
shots, and then it's like they like all the time they always like get good shots, and it's just about being more creative with the limitations of what you have, right?
Yeah.
Not like, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like, oh, I can't do it, so I'm just gonna give up. It's just like, well, I'll just figure out like the best way that I can, make the most out of this. So
Yeah, it's like a purple uke. I don't know, some kind of purple ukulele. It was like it's really cute, and I'm just like, okay, I'll just jam this outside while she's playing and whatever. And then like the neighborhood kids with their bikes, like, whoa, what is that? I'm like, oh, it's an ukulele. They're like, but it's so tiny. How are you playing that well?
yeah, that's kind of like the same thing too, right? Where we get people who say like, oh, I can't play a soprano because it's too small for me. But then there's like people who are pretty big, but they play soprano because they're like, I love the sound of soprano. Like even though, and people have that idea in their head like that you have to match the size of the ukulele to your size and your type.
Yeah.
And whatever size you find that you like, it's great, but you don't have to listen to the way to go is like, if you're smaller, play a soprano.
No.
If you're bigger, play it, tenor or baritone or whatever.
If that was true, God, I'd be playing sopranos. I'm like 5'3", so I'm a super tiny dude. I should be playing a soprano if that was the case. But no, I play a tenor, play a little bit bigger. But I can play like a sopranissimo or whatever that like that
The
tiny
nano.
one is, that nano even, like I can play that with like no problems and stuff. So I still get that a lot, especially on like a lot of new students and stuff. It's like I hate kind of bursting their bubble because a lot of them just go like, oh, it's just because I have like big hands. I'm like, oh, and so I have it handy like next to me in my office, just like, hey, check this out, like the one from Italy, like the really really tiny one, and
the
like,
iuke.
see, the iuke. I was like, see, it works out, and they're like,
Oh.
I hate to just prove me wrong, but yeah.
Yeah. Or like they're like, oh, the tenor, I don't know, I'm like smaller, so maybe I should go to a concert size too, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, give it like a couple months. If you keep playing throughout those 2 months, like you'll probably be like, oh, this is comfortable now. It just takes more time.
Yeah, and I mean, like, and some people say like this is too big or whatever. Same thing. Like, there's like a viral video of like some Asian kids playing like the guitar, like the classical guitar and stuff. And they're like how?
Yeah.
Those kids are like 4 years old or whatever. How are they playing those big guitar things? So like, I guess there really is no excuses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, unless it's like a. What do you call those that they use your whole body, an organ or whatever, I watched somebody play that like this past summer, like in LA. And it's like a full body workout. It's kind of amazing. Like, maybe there is such thing as too big. Like, I think that's too big for me.
I think I was just talking to Aaron about this, where it's like, I think because like, when I learned guitar, it was very limited and there wasn't like a ton of resources. Like, I'm just like trying to pick out as much information as I could with that too, right?
Yeah.
And my dad had a friend who came down to the shop, and he was like a fantastic guitar player. And his story was that he like played guitar. He started playing guitar on a guitar with like 3 strings.
Oh.
And he was like playing, and he's just copying whatever he heard his parents play because they're performers.
Yeah.
And then like one night they came home and they heard him, and they're like, "Who's playing? Like, what's going on? Like, we don't even have a guitar."
Yeah.
And he came out of the closet, and he only had like the 3-string guitar he could play. And they're like, "Oh yeah, that's awesome." You know, it was like
You make chords, 3 strings.
yeah. Just imagine like what you could do with like an actual 6-string guitar. Anytime like people are like, "Oh, it's because my thing is like not, you know, up to standard." It's like, yeah, it gets easier if you get like something, a better instrument or whatever, but it's doesn't have to limit you. You can make do with
I mean,
you have.
there's something to say about, you know, about comfort as well. Like you do want to get an ukulele comfortable for you, and that's why there's, you know, different sizes exist. It's just basically for comfort and stuff. But don't blame the size for like, you know, like this is frustrating. Like I like want to be able to get this song or technique or whatever. Like it might be easier on a different size and stuff, but like, you know, good old practice should be a, you know, a good first choice, and then maybe get a different ukulele. But I don't know if you have like this dispensable income, I guess you're like, just get an ukulele the right size for me. But that's all good. I don't have that, but yeah.
I think it can also be a drawback where people get a bigger or smaller uke and it still doesn't fit, and then they're like get even more frustrated, right? So
that's true.
Yeah, but it can, like, people change sizes and then they're like, oh, I feel like I can hold these chords and stuff. And I think a lot of times it's because in their head they're saying that they can do it now. Yeah. They kind of, without even noticing it, they're adjusting their hands a little bit to be able to play it better.
Yeah.
So that makes a difference.
I kind of like after I played guitar for a few hours or whatever, or I've just been jamming the guitar and then jump into an ukulele, and it's just, man, is everything just so much easier, you know? Like, so there is something to be said about, like, you know, about going smaller or bigger and stuff, because sometimes playing ukulele for like an hour and then jumping over to guitar feels a lot better. It's because it's just, you know, the space is much wider or whatever. So there's that. And even so, like guys like Aaron will, you know, he plays a GS Mini, like, which is perfect for his body as far as guitar size wise, you know, like, and so I guess just play whatever's comfortable.
Yeah. I think and it's another one of those things too that we talk about where it's like, if you just get used to stuff, right, and you get comfortable with whatever, the benefit too is that whenever you're jamming with other people and somebody's like, oh, here, try out like my soprano, you're not going to be like, oh, that's too small, I can't play that. Or like, oh, here, try out my tenor, or like stuff, right? And it's just about like, it's like Kalei, right? Like, you just give him a ukulele and he's like, yeah, I can play this. You know, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, because I'm like, Kalei, you know, I can go in the car. Like, it's not a problem, and you just grab your uke from the car. But he's like, no.
He's such a laid back guy.
Yeah, I know.
And that's the thing too. Like, he's encountered enough situations.
That's true. Like that. Yeah.
So part of being a better musician is just encountering more situations that you haven't seen yet, and then adapting.
Kahai, iron sharpens iron.
All right, and iron mangoes sharpen other iron mangoes.
That's where I was going. Nice. You got it. You got it. I see. This is why I love this trio. You know, it was a nice lob for Aaron, and bam, just smashed it in. Kahai, I don't know if anybody else gets the reference, but yeah, iron mango sharpens other iron mango.
Like, they're like, what? Is there like such a thing as iron mangoes?
Look it up. Look it up, kids. Iron mango. It's great.
Okay. Vince said, hoping you can talk about strings. Recently switched to fluorocarbon and not sure about wound. Some sits with metal, etc.
Okay. You know, you don't have to hope too hard. We talk about strings pretty much all the time here. So
that's a common question.
It's a common question. Don't worry about it.
People have.
So, you know, like we've talked about this kind of a lot. So for those of you folks who are like, I was going to talk about strings again, I'll try to make this as brief as possible. Okay. Strings are are whatever flavor you like. Okay, that's basically what it is. If you like the sound coming out of your strings on your ukulele, that's what you should play. Okay, if it feels comfortable, if the if the sound is bright enough, it's dark enough, it's whatever kind of sound that you're looking for, you find a string to fit whatever narrative you're going with your with your music. Okay. Also, how they feel, what their tension are, like it all really depends, because there's a string set for every single kind of style of playing. So whatever you're feeling, that's what you should do. If you went with fluorocarbon, I've had some experience with fluorocarbon. I like how bright they are. I like how punchy they are. But as far as that goes, I feel like they're a little too thin. So the sets that I've used, I haven't really come across like a thick fluorocarbon set. So because they're thin, the tension's actually pretty high even for me, and because they're thin and that tension is too high, they break easy. For what I do, because you're asking me, right? These strings right here are nylon. Like we made them with Aquila. I like nylon strings because they can be up to the tension that I want them to, but still keep the same diameter that I really like. But there's a bunch of different kinds of strings and different materials and whatnot, and whatever feels good. If you're unsure about wound strings, that's fine, especially if you just have the one wound string. That's kind of one of my bugaboos. Like, I don't like when one string is overpowering the rest. I like a nice balance between all four strings, and this is why I go crazy when I try to work on my ukulele, the electronics. I want everything to be nice and even across the board as far as the balance between all four strings. I want the G string to ring just as loud as the C, E, and A, and they all ring as loud as each other. Not one is more is stronger. And so if you have a string like a wound G, for example, and that kind of sticks out, it does. I understand your frustration, but just kind of know that like with wound strings, it kind of helps with the tension on your on your ukulele, because if you want in an unwound low G, the tension has to be pretty low in order to get that that tone. So if you don't like it being too floppy or too vibraty, is that's why these are O's, people. They're not A's, these are O's. And sometimes they tend to get like buzzy because the tension is too low, and they'll kind of just flop around and stuff. So if you don't like that either, go with that's why they're made. That's why people package in the low wound G, so that it keeps the tension pretty much equal throughout all four strings.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, right? Like wound strings are either going to be G or C usually. Like they're the low strings. So if you don't even want to play that, then like all the other sets like shouldn't really have wound strings. You should be fine like just picking a set.
Yeah,
I'm worrying about that.
I tend to catch a lot of ukuleles with like very buzzy C's, like C strings and stuff, and like it's all across the board. Like whatever, no matter what brand or what size or whatever, there's gonna be some buzzy C's. That's just how it goes with some ukes, So the C string that I use here, the tension is pretty high, and it's pretty. It's thinner than the usual, say like Pro Arte, like C on as far as nylon goes, and the thicker it is, and the more or the less tension, because it moves, it's more buzzy. So maybe, I don't know, I might go back to experimenting with like a wound C, like instead of. But the only thing I found with the wound C is the wound C that I've experimented with. I know I said this is the short answer, but now you got me talking. Now you got me started. Is I found it like aluminum usually, and like with the salt from my fingers and this perspiration and stuff. Like when I play it too much, like the aluminum kind of wears off, and it shows the thread underneath the aluminum and stuff, and it gets kind of dangerous.
You have to change it more often.
But I think that that eliminates like a lot of the buzz problems for some people who have buzzy Cs. Like that might be a problem, not problem, but a solution, because the tension is nice and high, and it's not as thick.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I tried to understand like, why did they make these strings like these like back in the day? Because string sets back in the day, like when I was starting out in say like late 90s and whatever, you had maybe a choice of 3 different strings. You had Hilo, you had Martin strings, and you had, I don't know, whatever GHS, whatever third one is, and that was it. Like, and all of them, if anything, had that wound C. And I think that's why they made it, to make things kind of consistent, throughout all 4 strings, so that they don't buzz as much. But now I tend to run across the C, but especially in the second fret, the C string second fret, if you hit it hard enough, that thing will buzz. But I don't know. To each his own. Like, as far as strings goes, find the one that works for you. Try it out. Like, if you like the fluorocarbons, I like them. It just doesn't work with my style. I wish they did, because they sound really good, But it's kind of risky for me to be using those strings, because I mean, as you guys know, I break my strings kind of often. So, and that's nylon. You imagine something like thinner and higher tension, that would just break every show. So
yeah, it really is like you said earlier. The reason why you kind of want to stay away from wound strings is because like it rusts here, right?
Yeah.
It's like, even that, like the environment that you live in can affect like how it sounds or how it plays and everything. So I think there's a bunch of there's always like videos online that like they do like sound demos with different strings, or they show different strings and stuff, and that can give you like a good idea, but you really won't know for sure until you like put it on your own uke and you try it where you live, or you play it yourself. So.
Yeah, but honestly, like I might have to go back to the drawing board as far as the C goes, because I mean, these strings are fine. Like, this one doesn't really buzz, but if I really dig in, maybe it still doesn't buzz. But I want it to be a lot more consistent, and I think the wound strings keep the intonation a lot better as well than the regular plastic or nylon strings and stuff. So I don't know. I gotta go back to the drawing board.
With that, you would have to sort of change
my
up.
playing style,
or like because you've been playing with the saddle and working with the balance, you would have to rebalance all of the strings, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's with every new ukulele that I have, or every new like string change and stuff, so it should be okay. But so for those of you folks who are like string balance, electronic saddles and stuff, I have recently, as recent as like, I don't know, past maybe 5-6 years, been kind of doing my own saddles on the ukulele, because this little white thing on top of your bridge, super duper important, because if you're an experienced ukulele player and you want to play you want to play harder songs, or you want your ukulele to be in tune, like
all the way up
the neck. Like, if you're very meticulous about that kind of stuff, you can hear that kind of stuff. Then I suggest just reading up about it. Don't try it. Yeah, just do some research. It took me a long time, but I usually take this out, and talking about balance, the piezo underneath here for my pickup. When if in a perfect world, okay, when you put the piezo down, then you put the saddle on top of it, then you put the strings on top, and then the strings would be equal across the board. But because of
volume,
the volume of the strings should be equal across the board. But
like when it comes through the pickup itself, right? Yeah. Like, it won't affect like acoustic sounding.
It's fine. But like the amount of pressure, because each string is at a different tension. The amount of pressure that it pushes down on the saddle is different. Okay, so some strings sometimes like the piezo might pick that up more or less. Okay, so that's why if you were to pick up an ukulele, like say a stock one from the store, like for me, like 9 out of 10 times, there's like one either louder or one softer, one string that is softer. It's just, you just can't get like a perfect ukulele. You have to like kind of get in there. So, you know, with being 100% transparent with you folks, like every ukulele that I get, I have to do that too. It doesn't matter where from, like Kanile ukuleles, Kamaka ukuleles, Kolo ukuleles, all the ukuleles that I've had and played on stage. I always have to balance them out first before I take them out on the road. So what that is like I'll either add more material so that the saddle makes more contact with the PAs underneath, or take out material, which I don't like doing. So I just add more to the other three or whatever. So it's really like a high wire act, like for, because if you add one to say this, this side of just underneath the G string, that might make the G string sound louder, but because it's, it now reshapes like the way the saddle lies on the piezo, it might affect, say, the A string, and now you got to go fix that. And when you fix that, something else kind of goes haywire. And at the same time, like it'll sound good, but then the next day, like your saddle will settle onto the bridge, and then it gets all haywire again. So this is a long, like weeks long process, months sometimes.
Yeah, because Kanilea does their best to try and do that, but then it is like where they can make it so it sounds good, send it to you, and then it can be different, right? Like just by that transportation. So it's like if you can do it yourself, you can kind of like really, and if you want to get into like the nitty gritty, then you gotta do all of that. Like, I adjusted this, now I gotta adjust this, now I gotta do this.
Yeah. Also, like intonation wise, so it's talking about intonation. Like the way that the string lies on the saddle will determine the intonation of your string. So. With this, for example, so like you can see, this is a compensated saddle. Can we get a close up of this? I don't know if they can see the compensation.
It's kind of hard because it's white. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's so there's like different kind of grooves. If you have a kanile at home, they all have like compensated saddles, and that they do that so it keeps the ukulele in tune. Because if the point where where it releases your string is too far to the front towards the headstock, that makes it a little bit sharper or flat. I don't know. Not right now. I've so you either have to sharp. I think goes that way, and then flat goes this way. So, so you want to be able to make sure that that's all good. I would if you're like, maybe that's why my ukulele hasn't been playing in tune. I don't know. So the way to check is to take your open A string and then play that, the A note on the 12th fret. So in this case, let's see, I haven't checked this ukulele yet, but so that's in tune. So it's playing about 2 cents sharp. Okay, so not bad. It's pretty close. That's negligible, But if it's playing like that's something that's something that you might want to take a look at. That's still an A note, for normal people's ears, it's not that bad, okay? But if it's like, that's something that you maybe should take a look at. That's but this 2 cents is not that crazy.
It's kind of
Well, that's on it. That's on it, yeah. So it's just an A. Everything else is okay.
It's like to get it to be perfect, it takes a lot of work too. Because like you can change the intonation from one string, and it's like, oh, okay, great. A is intonated, it's perfect. Yep. You go to E, C, G, and then you go back to A, and then it's off, right? It's like, So it's all about like you adjust one thing, you adjust everything, you go back, you check it, and then it's like when you get everything set, right? Isn't it like, okay, nobody touch it. Just keep it the way it is. It's set up perfectly.
Just to be clear, this is some like super high level stuff. Like normal people don't even worry about it.
Don't touch your saddles.
Don't touch your saddles. But if you're like, if you're an aspiring professional and you want to like make sure that that you're playing in tune and everything else sounds good and it's all 4 strings are equal across the board, That's
Yeah.
the kind of stuff that you want to strive for.
If you're starting to play up the neck and you can tell the difference, then go to a professional. And then if you really, if that doesn't help, then maybe you have to learn yourself.
Because I don't know,
But other than that,
maybe this soprano might be kind of badly intonated. I haven't checked this in forever, so I'm sure the saddle has kind of moved. So
not bad.
that's still not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then
There it is. There it
little
is.
bit.
That one. Even that's not that bad
Yeah.
either.
you can.
Most people won't be able to tell.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I did work on these, so like
Yeah.
but then as through time, it does get bad. But I don't know. This one stayed. I worked on this one too.
And like somebody else too. Let me see if I can find who asked. But they said they asked, Bongo Boy said, "When do I have to change my strings?" And intonation is one of like the first things that goes wrong when your strings start going bad.
Yeah. So don't think that it's like, oh, it's my saddle, or whatever.
Yeah, that shouldn't be your
Yeah,
first go-to.
Yes.
Yeah.
It might just be that you need new strings. So changing out your strings might, help out with the intonation. Also, if you're like interested by all this stuff, when you're changing your strings, okay, change them one at a time. I see a lot of people like stripping their all 4 strings out of their ukuleles and then putting on like 4 new ones, especially if you have an under saddle pickup, because what that does is it releases all the pressure like that's kind of down on your saddle. Because when it's good, when the balance is good, when the intonation is good, you should keep it that way, as much as possible. So by changing one string, it doesn't really move the saddle around, so just change it one string at a time. If you took it all out, that saddle's gonna move. That balance is gone.
Yeah.
Okay. So just a nice little tip if you're interested in doing stuff like this. But yeah, if the intonation is bad, first thing you should do, change the string.
Yeah.
Also, when should you change the string? Whenever you feel like it. Honestly, that's my rule. Whenever I feel like changing strings, go ahead and do it. You'll thank yourself every time, because you can't. I mean, even if your ukulele is dead, it sounds dead or whatever. Like the strings are dead and it sounds very like not as bright as it used to be. If you play your ukulele enough, you can't tell. But until you change the strings, you're like, oh man, I didn't realize how dead that was. It doesn't matter.
I was gonna bring that up too, right? Like I think that's like a pretty good comparison for like when you play on like an instrument that's not as good and then you play on a better instrument. It's like, oh, it's so much easier. When you play on dead strings, it's like you don't know, and then you change your strings and like, this is what my instrument is supposed to sound like. Like, oh man,
it's like a present for yourself. Every time.
So just change it whenever you have time, whenever you have the money to, I haven't changed my string in like a couple weeks or a month or a couple months or whatever it may be. It's like, I have some time this weekend, like a good hour, like to go and change the strings. It shouldn't take more than that, but if you're changing for the first time, maybe take a little bit,
and it takes a while to settle in too.
So do yourself a favor, just change it. I think people are looking for like, but like how many days or how many weeks or how many months? It's I've had strings on some ukuleles, like I think these are the same strings that I had on this uke, because like I burned it off at the end. That I like recorded The Simpsons with.
So that's
years 20 or 19 or no 18 20. My kid was
4 years.
So 2018. So these strings are 4 years old. Still plays in tune. Apparently, So it sounds good. Does it sound dead? Maybe. I can't tell unless I change the strings out. Probably. They're probably dead. But if I were to play this, you're like, oh, what do you mean? It sounds fine. Sounds okay. I'm sure it'll sound better if I change the strings. So it's one of those things that, what? If treat yourself to a string change, because it'll definitely make it sound good. Because even if you just had your new strings like a couple weeks or whatever, you change them out, there's still going to be a big difference, I think.
Yeah.
Nice and loud and bright and alive instead of like dead sounding.
Yeah, well, it depends. Too.
That's true.
Like how much did you play them? Right?
Yeah.
If you didn't play them at all, it's not going to make a difference.
Yeah. I think if you play them like pretty regularly, like you'll hear a difference if you change the string every month, every 2 months, right? So, but then that's the thing too, right? Like, I think most people keep their strings on for longer because they just forget how it sounds with new strings. So it's just like, it still works. It's fine, right?
Yeah.
And I think most people like change strings because their string either breaks or they do notice intonation problems. So it's like, okay, it's like kind of getting wonky, so I gotta change my strings. But then until then, like, whenever you want.
Yeah, whenever you. There's no rule. I mean, I know some people, and I think I've even said it, like maybe every other month, which is a good, like a good rule of thumb. Yeah. But you know what? Just do it whenever you have time.
If it's
I'm now changing my answer to just do it when you feel like it.
if you can afford it and you want to stay consistent, like maybe every 2 months. But if not, if it doesn't bother you or you don't notice any difference, then just go for it as long as you want.
Yeah, let's go for it. I mean, if it's even guitar strings, especially guitar strings. I've had guitar strings on some of my guitars for like a year, 2 years and stuff.
Yeah,
it's okay. Especially like my classical guitar, like that's probably been there for over a year.
Yeah.
Maybe, over a year because it's 2021. I was doing those videos.
Nylon strings over here, like you can keep it on, but steel strings, it's like, ooh, these strings
cut your fingers, man.
Why when I play a guitar, why does my fingers turn brown and green? What's going on?
You gotta get your tetanus shot.
Yeah. So
all right, okay, next up.
Okay, I gotta find it now.
Okay.
But
that's it. So just while Kalei is looking for that, my spruce top Brazilian roses back and sides, that like is still not ready. Like I'm still trying to balance that uke out. I had the balance, but then I swapped out my saddle because I don't know if you guys remember this, but about a year ago when I got it, I was like, I want to experiment with a high saddle just to see if find like a high action. High action's awesome. It actually sounded really good. Attack was really good and stuff, but there are some techniques that don't quite sound as good with the high saddle. So I just compensated with kind of meeting it in the middle, not too low, not too high. So because I got a new, I made a new saddle. Made meaning like I sanded it down to size and made sure that the compensation is perfect and stuff. Now I'm balancing that out, and it's been what, 3 weeks since I used that ukulele? 4 weeks now. It's been weeks, so it's a long process.
When you make adjustments too, it's like just like micro, right? Like if you sand it, it's like sand. Okay, that's it. Not like you're like sand.
Yeah,
like
intonation is fine. It's the balance. That's the part that that takes forever. Okay, next.
Yeah. Marima said, I saw Insta and Joe Souza was saying to only tune up, not down. I've never heard this advice before. Why?
That makes sense. Because when you're tuning down, like you're loosening the string up. So when you loosen it and you loosen it to wherever the when it says it's in tune, and that might go even more loose because sometimes the tuners will just slack, without you knowing. So as you tune down, it might go even further. But if you're tuning up, since you're tightening it up, that's kind of like tightening it up to tune, I guess, in tune, so that it's in tune. So when you tighten up in tune, it's a lot better. And I think I saw that same video. Great advice on that video. He's also saying that like a lot of people go do this, when they're tuning, but you should just go as you guys probably I do this. This is how I do it. I'll do this. I'll untune my uke. So here it is. Okay. So I'll play it until it gets close to the G. And then the closer to the G it is, the less I'll play it. Because what you want to do is you want to give time so that the tuner basically registers whatever note that it wants to tune. If you're doing this, the tuner doesn't quite register it as well. So you want to be just kind of like this. And as you're tuning up, it kind of tightens to tune as opposed to loosening it down, where you're in danger of it going more loose. So you're like, okay, I'm in tune. And then you go flat. And you're like, what happened? I tuned it. But tuning up rather than, tuning down is good advice.
Yeah. Also, your strings are sitting on the nut.
Yeah.
And so when you loosen your strings, it's loose behind the nut.
Sure, yeah, it'll go more
And
loose
then-
that way.
Yeah, or well, like it loosens it first behind the nut until the string
reaches,
Yeah,
yeah.
sort of stretches through the nut. So like especially like that's sort of the reason why people put graphite on their in
So
the
it
slots
doesn't
of their nut,
split.
Yeah.
so that it'll slide
hold it,
better.
yeah.
But like so like once you first start loosening your strings, it'll be looser behind the nut than on top of the
Yes.
fretboard. And so that's sort of the one of the reasons why he says to tune up, because
Yeah, tuning down.
yeah, it'll take a while for the string to actually settle on the nut
Yeah.
when it's loose. Yeah,
When you have like new strings,
loosened.
Yep.
or when I have new strings too, even like I'll tune like way higher to stretch out the strings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then have them like fall below, the point that it's in
Yeah.
tune, and then tune it back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you hear like some guys go, like they'll tune down,
Yeah.
and try to tune it up to whatever
Yeah.
to key.
Although I do tune down sometimes. like,
Yeah, but I mean,
like,
if you
I'll
know,
I'll
yeah.
tune down, then I'll stretch it.
Oh, yeah.
I'll
okay.
stretch
We're
the
not
string.
keeping it there.
Yeah, no, well, if sometimes if it's like a hair too sharp,
Okay.
sometimes I'll just pull on the string.
Yeah. And then that gets you in tune.
And then
there.
yeah. So in that sense, I'm tuning down.
I think it's definitely good advice, and we should be doing that. But I tune down too, and it's just because it's like, well, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
get it close enough to play a song, right?
Yeah.
I'm not. If you're like, maybe if you're performing for like a crowd or something, then you want to do that to make sure you're in tune and it's not gonna slip or anything.
Uh-huh.
But if you're at home and you're just like, I'm just fooling around,
Just for myself.
Yeah.
you're just like, I'm just getting in tune. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I like kind of like, or just go.
yeah.
That's like how I would tune
Yeah.
it.
I feel like
Like as it gets there, it slows down.
tuning is such a tedious and thing that like, and it's just eventually it becomes like a part where you don't really think about it when you're doing it, but it's like it's tedious, so musicians have to make a game out of it. And it's like when I tune, or like when I change strings and I tune for the first time, I don't use a tuner, and I just try and get the strings as close as I can. And then I put on a tuner. I'm like, I was fine,
yeah.
so many cents off or
See
so.
if you can do it by ear.
Or
Yeah.
like, you tune one string, then you tune the rest and stuff. So it's just like, it's boring. It's not fun. So you might as well just like do whatever you want. Yeah.
Yeah. An example of like kind of intonation and whatever was when we were playing at the concert with Matt and stuff. I was just like really having a hard time like trying to get stuff in tune, because like it was cold in that in that area that we were trying to record in, and sometimes like extreme changes in temperature like will also make your ukulele sound kind of weird. So no matter how much you're tuning it up, it'll like get sharper or flatter.
As the instrument itself
Yeah.
warms up or cools down. Yeah.
And poor Matt, he was using like an ukulele that wasn't his. Yeah, he was. I think he was using a backup uke because they're working on his intonation. See, that's the kind like where Matt doesn't want to do it. He's scared to get in there and get in the saddle to it, to fix the intonation issues. So I think he brought it over to Kalei that day. And he's like, "Can I get this ready for the concert?" They're like, "No, it's gonna take like at least a couple days, Matt." So it's that, yeah.
They tried, but then they're like, this is like, this is gonna take a little bit. So
Yeah.
we'll just hold on to it.
So it happens, folks. And even like some professionals like Matt Dahlberg are kind of like, I don't want to do that. It's like, super tedious. But I don't know. I was telling Aaron that like it feels kind of like I'm sure, because I'm not like a mechanic or even a car guy. It's like I'm sure that's how it feels like when some guys like like change their own oil or whatever. I'm just like, I don't know, I'll bring it to somebody and change the oil for me. Same thing. Matt just brought it to somebody, but I think there's a certain like certain feeling that you get of like, oh man, I did that. So same with this is like, oh yeah, I did that.
I think too, if you do it yourself, right, you can be as nitpicky as you want.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, the car analogy is like there's guys who like, I have to fill up my tire pressure to be this exact amount, right? Whereas like everybody else is like,
PSI, not one or not one
Yep.
more or less.
they're like, oh, my I don't know, my tires are a little flat, but at least they're still they're not on the rims, so I still roll with it, right? Too. It's like the same thing too, right? Like, oh, my intonation is a little off, but I still roll with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
All right, one more. You got one more. One more. We were a little bit late, so let's go with one more.
Okay. Let me grab it then. I gotta scroll back up.
Yeah, 6 minutes, guy, for the hour. All right. While Kahai is looking for the other question, if you guys want to learn how to play ukulele, make sure to check out ukuleleunderground.com. That's where we're from. If you guys are listening to this podcast, here's like, let me just go look at what podcasts about ukuleles I can find. We have a website where you can learn how to play ukulele, ukuleleunderground.com. Songs and lessons, we got it. Private lessons, we got it. You're looking for, for one-on-one coaching, we got it. That's right after this, by the way. If you're looking for like seminars or like live kind of, not necessarily live, but like taped workshops, we have those. You want ukulele courses, we got those. We got songs, we got a forum. What else are you looking for? We got it. Also, if you're looking for an ukulele, we have ukuleles in store. That's over at shop.ukuleleunderground.com. Go buy yourself a uke. You're like, kind of looking to upgrade to, say, an Aldrin Guerrero model. It's available. Or if you're like, you know what, I just have like $150, but I want a nice and decent ukulele. Bam, Islander.
Yeah.
Like planetary box set, good stuff.
That's a great starter.
Yeah. I bought that.
yeah.
It's so good. I bought one.
It's truly endorsed.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. What do they say? Like, I'm not just the whatever. I am also a
customer.
I'm also a customer. Yeah, I bought one because I think I said it last week or the week before. Like my cousin wanted to start playing ukulele, and I bought one. I haven't sent it yet. I don't know how much it is to send over to the mainland, but I am enjoying it because I'm playing it at home.
Oh, I sent it. It must have got lost in the mail. I don't know.
I never told her I'd get her one. I mean, I said I'll see what I can do. So I bought one with the intention of sending it to her, but
you saw what
I'm
you
kind of enjoying it at home.
Okay.
Yes.
David, going back to the 5-string, said, you think you could buy a 5-string ukulele and not string one of the strings?
Yeah, that's fine. Just just leave it blank and stuff. That's fine. Yeah, that works. But just make sure. The one thing when people do that is that because it's like a tuner without a string on it. Sometimes you'll get buzzing from like just the hardware of the tuner. So make sure that. But other than that, like that's fine. Yeah.
Just put painter's tape on it. Tape it to the headstock.
That would be lovely.
Yeah.
Nice blue. See, it's just like Jake Shimabukuro. Right? Put some blue on your ukulele. So yeah, that's what you should say. Like, I'm just like Jake.
Yeah.
Like if you play music on Hawaii, it's like that's not the worst fix for. My dad had a plastic straw over one of the strings to keep it from buzzing. So we've seen it all. Yeah.
I've used plastic straws as a strap. For my instrument. I've done that.
And then what was like the stickers for the fretboard markers you put on the?
Oh, Ferrero Rocher.
Yep.
That's right. That was on the guitar that I gave to you or something, right? Yeah, that's right. So I'm a chocoholic, so I would buy those Ferrero Rocher hazelnut chocolate things.
Yeah.
And then I would use that as the
stickers.
Because it was a classical guitar, and I think the dots at the top were kind of wearing out.
Oh.
So I eat a lot of chocolate, might as well use it because it's like the perfect size, for just using it as a sticker.
You should your next ukulele. You should ask if they can make it into inlays.
Ferrero Rocher inlays.
Yeah,
that's right. Moving on up, baby. Yeah, love those things. Yeah, if anyone's like, "What's your favorite chocolate?" It's Reese's peanut butter cups, Ferrero Rocher, and I mean, if we're talking just ones that you can get right away, but would you take? Do you want to take a guess of what my all-time favorite chocolate is, Guy? I know Aaron knows it. We've had it on the show before. Someone gave it to us.
I can only think of moon pies and wagon wheels.
Oh, it's from Japan.
No. What from Japan?
I don't know. I know we've got it, but maybe we didn't put it on. We didn't show it on the podcast or live Friday or something. But one of our students from Japan came down to the show and gave me a box of Royce chocolates. Royce, best, just the most delicious chocolate you could ever find. If you ever, Japan is open now, by the way, everybody. So if you ever, go like, oh, I'm gonna go take a trip to Japan, look for some chocolates called Royce, Royce. They're the best. Just the best chocolates. Just you'll thank me later. Just write me an email if you do go. Write me an email. Say, oh my gosh, I tried Royce chocolate, Aldrine. It was like really good, or it was okay, or it was really bad. I would like to know because that's mine. That's just hands down my favorite chocolate. Royce.
They're not very hard to find in Japan.
No, they're everywhere. You can find them at airports, where they sometimes Japan doesn't want to let you leave without trying them.
Yeah.
Okay. Any last last minute businesses that we should do, gentlemen?
No, I think that's fine.
Anything upcoming that we have?
Yeah.
Well, next time we can do set up a song challenge.
Oh yeah, we haven't done those in a while. Yeah, because we do want to give these. We got signed copies from Miss Cynthia Lin of her CD. So let's definitely do a songwriting challenge to give these away. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this CD and then this CD. I already kind of know what the challenge is gonna be.
Oh, cool.
So write a song about Blue Moon All Stars, whatever that means to you.
That's a good challenge.
Yeah. So next time we'll start it next time. Okay.
But next week it's close to.
Yeah, the week after.
Our next week is close to Halloween, so it's spooky jam.
I know Cynthia watched that Halloween episode that
She did.
Yeah, she posted it on her Instagram. I'm like, oh no. I was kind of happy with her not knowing about it. It was just like a Ukulele Ground inside joke, but now now I can't do that anymore. So wait, what is that Friday?
It's like the 28th.
Is that a podcast or is that a?
That's a jam.
It's a jam.
Yeah, so that
is it next week? That is next week, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, so spooky jam next week?
Spooky, yeah, maybe.
We did mash.
Yeah.
We're still not gonna play any Halloween songs. Or I don't know. Maybe I should learn some. Maybe I should learn some. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, just make the set dim and we'll put orange lights around. That's the
we'll make it festive. I'll dress up. I always dress up every year. I'll dress up as. Don't worry about it. Okay. As you know what. Don't worry. Just give me a surprise. It's fine. All right. I'll see you folks next week for Spooky Aloha Friday Live Jam. After this, we have the UU Plus live coaching where I help you guys out with whatever you need help with. Head over to ukuleleontheground.com. Click on the banner at the top. That'll lead you to the UU Plus live coaching. If you're not a member of UU Plus, sign up for UU Plus over at ukuleleontheground.com. You get access to tons of lessons, extra lessons. We have tons of lessons for free on the site, but you get access to lots of premium exclusive content that'll help you get to the next level. Right? Is that my tagline? What's my tagline? Take your ukulele playing to the next level. I've heard that tag. I'm trying to change it because I hear that tag elsewhere. So I'm like, maybe I should do something else. We're like, be the uke player that you want to. Does that work? Oh, I think I've heard that too. About, you know what? Learn some stuff. UU Plus. Go learn some things. I'll work on it. I'll work on my new tagline, guy. I'll see you guys next time. Have a great weekend.